One. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's Matt Donaghue with Mission Financial Planners. And this month, we're going to continue our business succession issue series. We're going to talk about disability buy-sell arrangements for businesses. So you've got me today, Kenneth Hamilton, and then we're really excited to have Tom Helbing with us as well. Tom is a disability insurance expert. He's done a lot of this type of work over a career that spans more than 20 years. If you're watching or listening to us for the first time, you're probably seeing this on our YouTube channel because we always record these workshops and then try to make the recordings available to people as well. If you do have any questions on anything that we talk about today, or you're like, hey, that might apply to me and my business, we do encourage you, give us a call or email us. You can always give us a call at 888-339-0093. Once again, 888-339-0093. If you want to set up a time to meet with us, go to our website, which is just missionfinancialplanners.com. You'll be able to see the, contact us link there or section there. Just click on that. You'll be able to set up a time to meet with me, Ken, or Jason Defoe, who's the other managing member here at Mission Financial Planners. We're going to try to keep this relatively short today. We're going to try to keep it to 40 to 45 minutes. And we're not here to overwhelm people today. What we're here to do is talk more about here's an issue that business owners need to address. And we're going to give you some real world examples of especially small business owners who have dealt with this through a series of maybe unfortunate incidents. So jumping into it. Our mission statement, here you can see it right here. Really, if I boil this page down, everyone, we want to help you make informed financial decisions, whether it's for personal financial planning, whether it's for your business. We want to make sure you know what you're doing and maybe more importantly, why you're doing it. And the reason we want to do that is because an informed decision is a confident decision, and you're going to feel good about the planning that you're doing. A little bit about me, and then I'll turn it over to Ken and Tom to introduce themselves. So I'm Matt Donaghue, one of the managing members here. I've got about 20 plus years of experience in financial services, certified financial planner, a bunch of other credentials. I live right here in San Antonio, although I am a Minnesota native. I have two beautiful daughters and have been married for about 15 years at this point. But a little fun fact about me that most people don't know, I actually slept outside on a winter camping trip when I was 17 years old. Up on the Minnesota-Canada border. So I guess you want to stay away from the Minnesota-Canada border today because you might get beat up by an angry Canadian. But the the thing is, it was actually 35 below zero out, and people a lot of times will be like, "Oh my God, how did you not die?" Well, there is a process to it, so it's not like you just, "Hey, I'm going to take a nap," and that will of course kill you. So, but if you want to learn more even about that, just let me know. I'd be happy to share. But in the interest of time, I'm going to pass it over to Ken. Ken, go ahead and take a moment to introduce yourself.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Kenneth Hamilton here. Uh, I guess I'm now in my 16th year in the industry. Skill set and passions really around income generation and minimizing taxes for households. And um, right now, actually, this coming Sunday, I'll be celebrating the sixth wedding anniversary to my lovely bride. Very much looking forward to that. And then a fun fact about myself is I have performed live with the band Chicago. Not attended, I was performing with them.
Mr.
And then,
Cetera himself.
yeah.
That's fantastic. It's fantastic. Tom, go ahead and take a minute to introduce yourself.
I'm Tom Helbing with Disability Insurance Services, and I'm a 25-year veteran of the insurance industry. I started out as an underwriter, then moved into a field agent role. And then for the past 18 years, I have been with Disability Insurance Services as a wholesaler. And disability insurance isn't just a job for me. When I was a sophomore in high school, my father was involved in a multi-vehicle auto accident in the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel. He broke his back, and I learned at an early age that income protection is very important. We went from a middle class family to struggling to keep our home together. And not only was it financial devastation, but it also led to my parents divorcing. And so I'm very passionate about protecting individuals' incomes as well as corporate businesses as well. So thank you, Matt and Kenneth.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you. All right, at just a couple of things we always like to make sure we cover people with people at Mission Financial Planners, every managing member is a certified financial planner. And what that means is whether it's your business, whether you as an individual, if we're working with you, we're following the financial planning process. We're not going to get into that today, but I always want to point out, especially to business owners, that it is a process you have to go through, right? There has to be some analysis done before anybody can even make a recommendation. And then when a recommendation is made, there should be a couple of options that the person's taking you through. One of the biggest things we see is people, when we ask people, why did you get X? Why did you get Y? They'll say, it's because that's what the guy showed me. Okay, you should always ask for, hey, that's option A. That's great. What does option B look like as well? And if you're following the financial planning process, you'll see that, hey, we want to have a couple different recommendations at least ready to go when someone's doing planning with us. So when we look at business planning, we've got a couple things, two different, groups we really look at. It's the business itself, but then it's also the people in the business that we want to make sure we're helping. You as a business owner, you're both, right? Especially if you're a small business, you might be the only person running the business. You might be the only person out there every day bringing in new clients and generating revenue and doing all those things. If that's the case, you're the business and you're the person in the business. Even with a business partner, even with staff, you always have to look at it's not just the business we're protecting, it's also you that we're protecting as well. Because if you're like most business owners, most of your net worth, most of your assets, if you will, are tied up in the value of your business. The last thing you want to see happen is that the business implodes because something happens like what Tom described. You get in an accident, you break your back, and now your business is shot. In addition to all the other health problems you're going to deal with. So we're going to talk about protection planning, and we're going to talk with a focus on disability. Now, Tom, I'm sure there are a ton of different ways you can go about disability planning, but some of the issues we run into is, here's the things that happen once someone does become disabled, right? The expertise is gone. Is the income going to continue into the business or into the person's pocket? And then even if there is a staff, can they keep the ship afloat while you're out recovering from whatever disability? That business owner then runs into two serious problems: family income and business value. So, Tom, can you talk a little bit about the intersection of those two, especially,
Yeah,
small
so
to medium-sized businesses?
we like to term the business owner as basically the goose that lays the golden egg. And without that business owner to really be able to make contributions to the business, that business owner is the rainmaker. And once that business owner is forced to step away from the business, either due to sickness or injury, not only do medical expenses from a personal or family standpoint increase, income decreases, and the overall intelligence of the business takes a hit as well. People are scrambling to do and perform duties of the business owner. So, from a personal perspective, the family becomes affected. But really, where there's a big hit as well is that the business doesn't have someone to come in and take over the duties of the owner. So, today we're talking about disability buyout insurance, but we can also look at key person insurance.
Sure.
Disability buyout plans typically have a 1 year to 2 year elimination period. So as we do continuation for the business, what's going to happen? And do we have funds to bring another individual into the business or promote somebody from within the business to keep that business running?
So let me ask you a question. So when you're talking a 1 to 2 year elimination period, what does that mean to the business?
Yeah, so the elimination period is the period of time that the owner must be disabled before the buyout benefits kick in. Okay. And there are really two ways that we can structure the buyout plan. We can either do a lump sum benefit or a combination where a monthly benefit is brought out for anywhere from 2 to 6 months, then a lump sum payment is made after that.
Gotcha.
And for the business, as I mentioned before, that business owner is the rainmaker. And without that individual there, the business really comes to a screeching halt.
Right. Right. Um, I always get a kick out of these charts, right? Because people see these odds, right? And they know it's a realistic, right? Something's likely to happen, especially the younger you are, right? Because you have a bigger time when, bigger time horizon, right?
Yeah.
Um, but we've all been doing this a long time, and we all realize that the challenge for most people is, well, it's not going to happen to me, right? And I know Ken's
I
got
run
a,
into that on a weekly basis, the
I'm sure you do.
Superman philosophy or Superwoman philosophy.
Yeah. I know Ken's got something that happened to one of his clients just recently, who's a business owner. Ken, do you want to share that story?
Well, before we dive into that, Matt, there's me, you, and Jason.
Right.
And
Jason's on a plane, right?
y'all are 50. I'm somewhere between 35 and 40. So statistically, we're sitting between 75 and 55% chance we're needing this. So Thomas, we need to schedule a follow-up. Okay.
Yeah,
You mean,
and you know what, Kenneth, that is very, very common. I look at business valuations and um, planning issues that businesses have, and I would say about half of the businesses that we work with have a continuation plan or a buy-sell agreement in place, and they have it from just solely a life insurance perspective. Okay, where they have life insurance policies in the event of the death of the owner. But we're going to take a look at some statistics in not just this slide, but some following slides. And I think what's very important to walk away with is at the younger ages, okay, and I'm talking 50 and below, there is a much higher propensity for disabling injury or sickness than a death. And yet, when I look at these continuation plans, okay, they have it covered from a life insurance standpoint, but there is no verbiage in that buy sell agreement that talks about the disability of an owner. And one of the things that Kenneth and Matt can provide is we have carriers who provide us with sample buy sell language. Okay. So we can provide, or Matt and Kenneth can provide to you sample buy sell language that you can discuss with your business owners to at least get this topic on the table. Because some of the things that I see in our industry as well is these one-stop insurance shops that handle life insurance for the business owner, handle health insurance, handle their investments, but never bring up the topic of income protection or disability insurance. And I know of a case that's going on right now where there was a one-stop shop and the business owner became disabled in a biking accident. And there is a high dollar E&O suit going right now because they were that one stop shop, but never brought up or discussed income protection planning. So, I have a personal story and what happened to my dad when I was growing up. But as a financial advisor, you have a fiduciary responsibility to at least broach this subject with your clients. And if you're not doing that, you're doing them a disservice.
yeah, so for all those clients out there who are watching this, right? The question, or all those people out there watching this, the question I would ask you is, when was the last time your advisor, your agent actually brought this up? And we hear all the time when we ask a question like that, well, I never asked them. It's not your job to ask. It is their job to ask that question because
Yes.
they're the subject matter expert. You're not. You're the subject matter expert at running your business, your life, what you do. Their job is to be proactive, going right back to that financial planning process to say, look, here's some of the pitfalls we see that we need to plan for. This odds of being disabled, this length of disability. Can your business survive if you're 45 years old? 2.9 years of you not working in it? Can
Yeah.
you survive 2.9 years of not working in your business financially? And to me, those are the questions that need to be asked. Um, and the unfortunate thing, it's real, right? Ken, do you want to take a minute and talk
Yeah.
about what you just
That
experienced?
Yeah, that's the segue that I want to talk dive right in. My wife, again, happy anniversary, darling. Um, she has had a long time relationship with the lady that's been doing her hair, and she's going on 20. While we've been married on 6, they've been known each other for 20 years. They've had their relationship, so I need to catch up. Long story short, though, on the weekend, driving out and about, got T-boned in her vehicle, and the car that hit her went into a ditch, got out of the vehicle. Somebody then swung by, picked her up, and then drove off. It was effectively a hit and run. Meanwhile, she's having to go through some serious recovery right now. And guess who was working 1 week after that major incident? Her hairdresser. She still had to go back to work. And she should be resting. She should be able to have these things in place to make sure that her family's taken care of, that her health is being taken care of, because you don't know where it's going to come from. You might have a desk job, and again, might think your biggest concern is, needing a standing desk, but disability can come from anywhere, any way, and as you see on the screen, it's not going to be a short period of time. And yes, you might still be able to do some of your work, but are you going to be able to run at 100%? Or will you have to turn it down to 60 or 40% of your typical workload as you recover? And the impacts of that are astronomical. It's really befuddling when you see your income turn back because of, again, some kind of freak accident, and it's real.
Yeah.
Kenneth, most consumers shy away from income protection products due to the cost. And what I wanted to express to everyone is there are ways that we can design a disability insurance policy where it's not the Cadillac version. Okay, your Cadillac version is to have a 60 or 90-day elimination period, benefits payable out to age 67, covering 60% of your income. But as these statistics show, the average disability is just about 3 years. So we can design a policy that either has a 2 or a 5 year benefit period that is affordable for most consumers. So I just want to encourage everyone. This is something you really need to explore to protect yourself, protect your family, and your business. Because as I mentioned before, in the event of disability, expenses skyrocket and income goes down. And when you have a disability policy in place, okay, it gives you not only financial comfort, but mental comfort as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that being able to sleep at night, I don't know that you can, going back to cost, Tom, I don't know that you can really put a price on being able to sleep at night. So
Right. Exactly.
now a disability buyout plan can do a lot of stuff. Tom, when you're looking at this, right? Um, to me, it comes down to income and the value of the business is protected, right? When you look at all
Right.
these different bullet points here. From your standpoint, though, and your years of experience, which one would you say is A, the most important, but B, the second one maybe is what's the most overlooked by people when they're considering this?
That potential forced liquidation of the business,
That one in the middle?
that one in the middle, to me, I unfortunately see this on a monthly basis. Okay. Um, I have an example of a dentist up in Fort Worth, Texas, who was exploring a disability buyout plan, had a younger dentist within the practice, and we were in the middle of these talks, and he unfortunately wanted to push it back a couple months before implementing the plan. And unfortunately, he had a stroke and was not able to return to his practice. Um, and in that scenario, that practice was sold on pennies of the value of that practice because he was forced and they knew he was not going to be able to come back to the practice.
Right.
And so to me, that forced liquidation is a major issue from a monetary standpoint.
Yeah, we have another client who's kind of going through that right now. They were looking to sell their business anyways, right?
Yeah.
But one of them fell off a stage
Mm.
at some kind of conference he was teaching a class at and shattered his elbow. Well, they have a very hands-on type of business that they have to do, like literally, like it's a massage therapy clinic, right? And he's one of the leading massage people
Hmm.
there. He's also a co-owner, and with a shattered elbow, you can't work. You
Yeah.
know you're kind of useless to the business, and they don't have something like this in place. Well, fortunately, he has a very strong and competent business partner who was already working down the path of selling the business, and they see the value of all that, and they're not as worried about it. But if they weren't selling the business and they weren't already looking to move, that competent business owner is all the time talking to me about cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. I don't know how long the business can afford to pay partner B because partner B's out for 4, 6, 12 months, however long it's going to be to recover from that elbow injury. So,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
a great point, Matt. And I'll tell you, there are um, alternate disability insurance plans that are out in the marketplace that really focus on that need. And it's called a business overhead expense policy.
oh, sure. Yep.
And they're very, very inexpensive. And in the event of the disability of, let's say, this massage therapist, okay, those business overhead expense funds can provide replacement income to bring another massage therapist in for 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, and continue to meet the need of the customers of that massage practice and gives time for that owner to come back into the business. But what it also does is it gives time for that owner to recognize, is my disability so severe that I'm not going to be able to come
Right.
back to the business? And if that's the case, this is where the disability buyout plan comes into place.
Mm,
But having that and combining it or joining it or cocooning it, as I like to say, with a business overhead expense policy, that ensures the continuation of the business and the revenue flowing into the business and not having those customers that you've had for 10, 15, 20 years, as Kenneth was talking about earlier with the stylist, go to the salon or to the massage therapy unit down the road.
mm.
So I like to call it cocooning your customer with income protection products.
That's fantastic. I should have had a butterfly ready to go for that, right? Um, so you're kind of getting into features already of how this stuff works.
Yeah.
There's a lot on this slide. What would you say is the most surprise? What's the aha moment for people when you're talking about this? Because like you said, you got business owners, they're busy, they're running their business. Yeah, I'll deal with it later. Nothing's ever happened to me. I'm bulletproof, I'm invincible, whatever. What's the aha moment
The
for,
aha moment
yeah,
for me is, as I mentioned before, I review 10 buy sell agreements during a month's time, and we have the contract language to address the death of an owner, and half the time we have the contract language to address the disability of an owner. And I see that the life insurance is funding the buy sell agreement, but when we get to really the meat and potatoes, and I ask them, okay, what type of policy do you have to fund in the event of disability? And they say, oh, I haven't gotten to that yet.
mm,
And to me, I'm a statistics guy. If there is a higher probability that you're going to be disabled rather than passing away, why are you choosing that life insurance piece first?
right,
Okay. You really need to play the odds and fund that disability buyout agreement as well.
Yeah, and when you think about like, it's one of the issues that comes up in a different slide, right? When you think about the implementation process. Well, part of the implementation process is ongoing monitoring because the
Yes.
value of your business is going to change. Your income flow is going to change, right?
Yes,
Hopefully for the better.
exactly.
And so we run into it with life insurance buy sell arrangements where they bought 10-year terms and the business is worth two or three times and oh no, now the 10-year term's expiring. What am I going to do? We have another client where the only affordable solution is really to do a group term policy and juice up the two of the three owners because they're in their mid 70s now
Yeah.
and there's a much
And
younger partner. So,
and so on the disability side, Matt, there
mhm.
is a feature called a future purchase option.
Oh,
So
okay.
let's say in 2025, that valuation for one of the partners is at 1.5 million. Okay. We can do an annual review on this valuation of the business. And if that jumped up from 1.5 million to 2 million, we can exercise that future purchase option without medical evidence of insurability. So we don't have to take a look at the business owner from a health perspective. We underwrite you once, and we're locking in that ability to increase the disability buyout policy in the future as the valuation of the business grows. So the important feature is we don't have to show any medical evidence of insurability, just financial evidence of insurability that the valuation has increased. And we can bump that valuation up on the disability policy.
And I'm assuming that's pretty easy. It's just a tax return.
Yep, just a tax return.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Um, let's jump past this. Let's talk about taxation for a second here. Because, one of the things we talk about at Mission Financial Planners all the time is um, it's not what you have, it's what you keep.
Yep.
So to me, the couple of the things that we get asked right away whenever we start talking about, employer programs, can I deduct the premiums? If something does happen, is there a tax implication for me as an owner to the business? Can you take us through, some of the common themes you see with disability buy-sell arrangements and taxes to the partners, but also to the business?
Yeah, so the premiums are not tax deductible, okay? But the proceeds are not going to be taxed when the payout goes out. Now, if we have an instance where you're receiving 1.5 million and there is some loss in valuation of business, then there'll be some capital gains tax to take a look at. But overall, insurance is the best and easiest way to fund the buy sell agreement.
Yeah, and that kind of does take us right into this because if you do the insured method versus any of these others,
Yeah.
it's it is pennies on the dollar to use your expression from earlier. It's affordable actually, and
Yeah.
so that's always a challenge for me is when people say, well, how much is it going to cost the business? And I always just kind of want to pull my hair out and say, you mean to tell me you're not going to spend $3,000 a year, $5,000 a year, $10,000 a year, whatever the number is, to protect a $1 million revenue line?
Yeah.
You're not.
Exactly.
Really? Okay. Um, that always just floors me when people push back on that. Not that
You
these other
know,
methods can't work, but you know,
and let's take a peel the onion back a little bit on this loan method too.
mhm.
Um, I hear that a lot. If they don't want to fund it through insurance, you know what? I'll go to the bank and talk to my banker about a loan and fund the agreement through a loan. Okay. When you're sitting down with a lender, and let's say you have two or three partners, and the rainmaker of the business becomes disabled and is not being able to make contributions to the business, what do you think that lender is going through that lender's head? Is this really an A loan? No, that A loan risk goes down to a B or C because that lender understands that the rainmaker is not there, and that the revenue of the business may not continue as it did for the prior 2 or 3, 5 years. So to me, and insurance is the most affordable and best method to fund a buy sell agreement.
It's funny. Ken and I were talking about music this morning, and Megan Trainor's name came up, and because she has a song called "My Name Is No," and that banker suddenly becomes Megan Trainor. My name is no. My answer
Yeah,
is no. The dollar amount you're going
exactly.
to get is no.
Yeah,
It's just that's what it is.
And when it comes to getting those loans, at least where I'm thinking about is what we do a lot with our retirees before they retire, opening up that home equity line of credit, not to use it, but to have it open in the first place. As a business, what Thomas is saying is if you go and try and get the loan after the fact, those
Good luck.
terms are not going to be favorable.
No, not
that's
at
right.
all.
If you do a little bit of planning, you would have that line of credit open in the first place. But again, if you're willing to jump through that hoop, you should probably just to see throw your hat in the ring of the insured part anyway. The other thing to be thinking about is a loan on what? Is it an unsecured loan or a secured loan? Depending on the type of business you have, you might have 50 acres and a bunch of equipment and stuff like that. Okay, in that instance, if all of it's paid off, a loan method very well could make sense. But myself, Matt, and a lot of the business owners we work with are very service oriented, where the way Thomas is describing, Matt, we are the business. The relationships we have is the business, not a piece of equipment that anybody can jump on. So just yeah, some food for thought for
Yeah,
the
great points. Great points. Now, there's a load of stuff out there, for those of you who we get into this in detail with, believe me, we will take you through plenty of flow charts and so on. Um, Sole proprietor, so like what Ken was talking about with, the hairstylist who owns her own business, she is her business. That's it, right?
Yeah,
Essentially what she's doing is she's taking pennies to an insurance company to make sure she gets the dollars when she needs them. And I know I am taking a lot of detail on this slide and boiling it down to, a nutshell, in making that statement. But Tom, when you've been working with over the years, when you've been working with sole proprietors,
yeah.
um, what are some of the obstacles that like genuine, not just procrastination, but like some of the genuine obstacles they have to get over to make sure they got something like this in place?
Yeah, especially with a sole proprietor, that impacts businesses the most because the sole proprietor is the one from sweeping the floors up to setting the vision for the company. And, for many, many years, our disability insurance carriers did not offer a solution for a sole proprietor. Okay,
Interesting.
so we just had buy-sell agreement plans, for corporations, partnerships. But within the last 5 years, Principal Financial Group has introduced a buy-sell plan for sole proprietors, where if you have a key employee, and that example I was talking about with the dentist practice up in Fort Worth. We were going to do a plan where that other young dentist was going to have a policy, and the younger dentist would be the owner of the policy, pay the premiums on the policy. But in the event of a disability due to the veteran dentist, um, funds would have been available to acquire the practice. Unfortunately, we never executed the plan. A stroke came into the picture, and again, that practice was sold to somebody else. Pennies on the dollar, as venture capitalists were just circling around that practice, recognizing that we could purchase this on pennies on the dollar. And so, with sole proprietors, this is definitely a situation where we can take a look at a disability buyout, and that business overhead expense plan we were talking about earlier, this is the perfect scenario for that.
Sure.
Okay. Your sole proprietor can have temporary funds for 12, 18, 24 months to bring another person in to run the business. And then after 1 year, if that individual is still disabled, the buyout funds then are available to do a smooth continuation.
Fantastic.
Tom, what I'm hearing is to get a good deal like that, where you can buy something pennies on the dollar, you should take your competitors on a ski trip, is what I'm hearing.
Exactly. There you go. There you go.
All right, so it gets a little different when you're actually a partnership, though, right? Because now you're trying to
Yeah.
insure each other,
Yeah.
protect the business, keep the lights on, right? And the other thing too that I'll always point out to people, anytime you're talking partnerships, it depends on the dynamic of the partnership too. Because if one of you is the rainmaker, the other one is more the operations guy. Well,
Yeah.
those are very different roles in the organization. If you're both rainmakers and you've hired someone to be the operations guy. Well, okay, that might make it a little easier because you have a similar role at that point. So when you talk partnerships, Tom, what have you seen in terms of partners actually implementing this and some of the issues they deal with?
Yeah. I've seen some pretty hilarious situations where you have two partners, and in the event of a disability, one partner doesn't want the other partner's spouse to come in and become the new partner. And,
Right.
and so we've had, agreements come up just for the fact that, disabled partner A just is not on good terms with the spouse of partner B, and, wants to ensure that this business can continue to grow, operate smoothly, and not have someone come in and make emotional decisions about the future of the business. So partnerships are very important as well to ensure a smooth transition.
Yeah, the uninformed spouse, and
Yes.
we're all married and all that, right? But the uninformed spouse who loves you but doesn't know your business, doesn't necessarily make a good partner for the business.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
now when we get into entity purchase versus cross purchase, now in this, and I'm going to assume we're talking LLCs and S corps at this
Yeah.
point,
Mhm.
they're buying out through the insurance, the partner who the business is buying out the person who became disabled.
Yeah, the
How
the
does that,
shares of the disabled partner.
yeah,
Correct.
how does that work?
Yeah, so let's assume there's three partners in this situation. Um, each partner will have a policy, and the owners would be the other two partners of the insured. And so, if the insured becomes disabled, the funds are available to split the shares for the two non-disabled partners. And it's really a smooth and easy way to ensure continuation of the business.
Okay. And then of course the surviving partner is the one who really takes control at that point. Other partner's spouse is out of the picture
Yep.
completely,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Those shares are transferred.
Yeah, and one thing I'll stress for everyone too, and Tom's mentioned sample language before, this stuff is contractual. So,
Yes.
it's not just, hey, Ken and I go shake hands and we shake hands with our other partner, Jason, and we're good. No, this is an actual contract between, in this case, the
Yeah.
partnership and the owners. If you did the cross purchase, right, it's between the partners themselves. And even in these corporate cross purchase plans that we'll talk about next, same thing. It's always a contract. And so that also means you've got to get this stuff reviewed periodically. Um, you may have a 10-year term insurance policy, you may have a disability policy that you bought, that generated X amount of income for you if something happens. Well, is that still current 5, 10 years down the road? And when you do have to make a change, are you having your attorney review the contract to make sure the contract gets updated as well? Because Tom, you said something earlier that I thought was great, which is, 7, 8 years ago, certain products weren't available in that sole proprietor space. Well, 10 years from now, there might be products available in corporate cross purchase partnership, whatever, that just weren't available at the time. Your
Yeah.
contract might have to be updated to reflect this new offering that's now in the mix if that's what you end up implementing.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'll tell you, Matt, we had mentioned, that carriers have sample buy sell agreements that can be provided to the CPA or attorney of the business owner. But Principal Financial Group, one of the carriers we work with on a daily basis, also provides a free valuation service.
oh,
Okay.
interesting.
So if you're not,
Um,
don't have a good general idea of the valuation of your business, you can send to Matt or Kenneth the past 2 years tax returns of the business, and free of charge, Principal will come back with a valuation for you.
Fantastic. I'm actually making a note of that because that is always a hang up with people is I'm not sure what it's worth,
Yeah, and
right?
no, I see that on a daily basis, and that's where I start the conversation. Then is, hey, look, before we can really develop a plan, let's have a financial institution come back and provide you with their evaluation.
Sure.
And again, there's no cost associated to that, and it really helps start the conversation for continuation plans.
Right. Right. Fantastic. Well, okay, so it's kind of a great segue into short-term next steps or things you should do now to establish that business value and then find the right policy. But then, of course, we got to go through underwriting, right, Tom? Um,
Yes. Mhm.
got to make sure you're insurable, and then you got to make sure that you're budgeting for the premium payments. The thing I'll stress to everyone on budgeting with the business is you may stretch your budget, but if you stretch your budget, is it realistic, especially if you're in a cash flow business where maybe some months are great, other months aren't so great from a cash flow standpoint? Because a lot of business owners, at least from our experience, will try to choose like a monthly or a quarterly type payment. Um, Tom, do you see these plans kind of blow up because they stopped funding? Um,
Yeah, yeah, and wouldn't even initially fund altogether.
okay,
Um, Again, as I mentioned before, there are ways that we can create value so you don't have to purchase that Cadillac version of the disability insurance plan. The Cadillac version is, a short elimination period followed by a lump sum payment. But in certain situations, let's take a look at a budgeted plan where
right.
we have a longer elimination period, have a monthly benefit payment followed by a lump sum payment, and those premiums become much, much more affordable.
Yeah, and that's where, and I'll stress for everyone, that's where what Tom's talking about here. Now you're talking about tax planning for the business, you're talking about income planning for the business, you're talking about insurance planning for the business. You've got to work with someone who can see it from those angles. If you're working with someone who's just tunnel vision on one thing, they may be great at that one thing, but they don't know what's going on beyond here. I mean, they're not looking at the taxes, or maybe they're not looking at the insurance, or maybe they're not looking at the cash flow of the business. They're just looking at their part of it. So having that specialist who's well-rounded is critically important. Short-term stuff is, as you're establishing the insurability, you're gonna expect anywhere from 30 to 90 days to get through an underwriting process. Most of that comes back to your doctors responding to requests for information from the disability insurance company. That's always been our biggest hangup, is sometimes doctors are super slow to provide information. But if the doctors are prompt, in many cases you can get an offer within 30 days. While you're doing that though, while you're waiting for that insurance underwriting to happen, this is where take that sample language to your attorney, have them draft up the plan. You'll probably have offers back by then. And like what Tom's saying, if you choose a method or an insurance plan that maybe there's now a 6 month or 9 month elimination period, do you have enough cash flow? Do you have enough dry powder to get through 6 to 9 months before the policy kicks in? You're going to want to take a look at that. You're also going to want to consider, and I know our focus today has been disability. Tom's talked about business overhead. We've touched a little bit on life insurance. You'd want to check out last month's recording for life insurance because we did a deep dive on that last month. But you do want to consider the life insurance side of this as well. Now, when you get into the long term, and this goes right back to our initial slide about financial planning, I actually think the most critical part of the process is ongoing monitoring. Things are going to change. And so you can see some of the different things you're going to want to have to review on a periodic basis. Tom, when you're looking at this, how often should someone actually do a thorough review of their
Annually.
annually? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if your business is in a growth mode. And as I mentioned before, one of the key riders that, as we sit down and plan about continuation is really strongly consider that future purchase option that
Right.
allows you to increase the policy benefit without medical evidence of insurability. We spoke briefly about underwriting on that prior slide, but the younger you are, the healthier you are, the lower the cost of the policy.
Right.
You get older, the premiums really increase on a banding age scale. And if you have some medical issues, there's something called a policy rating where they can put a 25, 50, 100% rating on the policy. So it's important to take a look at this at a younger age and when you're in good health. Because as you increase in age and as your health diminishes, it makes it a much tougher and more economically challenging to secure a disability policy.
What you mean we don't age like fine wine?
Yeah, exactly.
Since when? My wife and I were at a ski resort for a long weekend and we don't ski. And I'm turning 52 in May. And I think I shared this with Ken. Ken was like, why didn't you go out and try it? I'm like, I'm at a point in my life where I'm not interested in tearing up a knee or a shoulder or whatever on a whim. No way. So, well, everyone, I want to say thanks again. Tom, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. We really
Thank you,
appreciate
Matt.
it.
Thank you, Kenneth.
Any last thoughts, Tom? Any big call to action you would give people in terms of getting this started?
I would encourage everyone if you haven't explored protecting your income or protecting the continuation of your business, give Kenneth and Matt a call, and don't push it off, because I see this on a weekly basis, people pushing this off, and then the unfortunate happens, and it leads to really financial and family devastation.
Uh, Ken, thank you. Ken, any final thoughts?
Absolutely. If you've made it this far into the conversation, you are either a business owner or really into insurance. But if you've made it this far, ask yourself, you're probably even watching this on your phone. Does your phone have a case? Well, you believe in protection. You probably even have an insurance on your phone. Do you have a spare tire? Probably. You might even belong to AAA. You have homeowners insurance, but you probably even have an alarm on your home as well. If we have all these protections on these important parts of our life, if you're here, I mean, you're a business owner, why wouldn't we have some additional protections around your best asset, your ability to go out there, make it rain, build value for yourself, for your employees, for your customers? All this is very, very important for all of those individuals. And all it starts as a quick conversation. So let's talk about it.
I'm not going to say anything. Ken, that was fantastic. Tom, thank you so much for your time. Everyone, if you do want to talk, you can see our number on the screen and all that, but I'll just, for those of you just listening, 888-339-0093. Once again, 888-339-0093. You can always send us an email at admin@mfplanners.com. Once again, admin@mf. The MF stands for Mission Financial, not what some of you are thinking it stands for, but admin@mfplanners.com. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll look forward to talking soon.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.